Taking a look at markets, futures are flat today now. Markets were edging higher earlier as investors await fourth quarter GDP numbers to come out roughly 90 minutes from now. We're expecting the economy to show growth of 2.5% in the fourth quarter. My next guest chairs the subcommittee on monetary policy and trade in the House Financial Services Committee. Joining us right now is Kentucky Congressman Andy Barr. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
So did what you see in terms of what's happening in the economy today, did that jive with what you heard from Mr. Powell yesterday?
Yes, I think our new chairman of the Federal Reserve reinforced what we're already seeing, which is that tax cuts and the regulatory relief agenda, that agenda is working in the economy, and that the economic outlook is strong as a result of the fiscal stimulus that Congress and the president have injected into the economy. And that gives the Fed greater flexibility to continue its monetary normalization program, which is very important to remove the distortions from our economy.
So what did you get from him yesterday? I mean, did you get a sense that he's going to raise interest rates 4 times?
Well, I was encouraged that Chairman Powell did clearly communicate the monetary policy trajectory. He did indicate that the tax cuts were working in terms of increasing household incomes, increasing wages. The consumer and the business confidence is very, very high. And as a result, we do expect the Fed to continue to normalize. And that's very important because this Fed chairman has inherited a very unprecedented task, and that is the task to unwind a very unconventional balance sheet, a bloated balance sheet that creates risks, and also a protracted period of artificially low rates. We need to return to market-based rates. That doesn't mean a unpredictable increase, dramatic increase in interest rates. It means a gradual, predictable increase in interest rates consistent with a growing economy.
Yeah, we were talking about that all morning. $4.5 trillion balance sheet needs to get unwound, which is why you asked this question yesterday. Let's listen.
Are there any plans within the balance sheet normalization strategy to roll off longer-term assets more quickly to counteract that flattening yield curve?
Flattening of yield curves in the past has been a sort of a precursor of recessions, but largely because in many prior recessions, the Fed had to raise rates quickly to hold inflation down. That's not the situation we have now. There's always a risk of a recession at any given point in time. I don't see it as at all high at the moment.
So were you surprised that the markets reacted so violently after the meeting?
No, and I'm also not surprised at the general level of volatility. And remember, some of these corrections are very healthy to avoid asset bubbles. We don't want excessive volatility, but we also recognize that normalizing monetary policy can be a very sound policy from the standpoint of preventing asset bubbles, making sure that we're realigning valuations and equities according to reality. So it's not altogether a bad thing to recalibrate as the markets continue their overall upward trajectory. Again, we don't want valuations to exceed reality, and so some level of correction here and there is a good thing as the market continues its long-term bull run.
I see.
What is Congress going to do? By the way, this is Mary Kissel here. If we do see a spike in rates and that interest burden on the government debt goes through the roof, I mean, that's a big risk, isn't it? What are you guys doing about it?
It is a big risk, but it's also important that we don't mask the true problem with artificially low rates that create distortions in the economy and excessive risk. I think it's incumbent upon Congress and the president to get serious about mandatory spending reform. I would add that some of the critics of tax reform blame tax cuts for larger deficits. I think monetary normalization and unreformed mandatory spending is what is likely to increase deficits. And so that reinforces the need for us to continue pro-growth policies so that we get revenue not from tax cuts, but from more taxpayers. And we also reform mandatory spending so that we can force the government to live within its means.
We want to switch gears here. Here's Jason Chaffetz. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, Jason Chaffetz here. It's good to see you,
Jason.
Andy.
Good to see
I
you.
served with Andy in the United States Congress. I want to ask you about guns. The House of Representatives passed a bill that had the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act coupled with the Fix NICS, the National Instant Background Check System. Do you think the House has an appetite to separate those bills and run independently the Fix NICS legislation? And would that be palatable with what's going on in the Senate?
Well, I would support that, Jason. I also support the reciprocity bill. I'm a co-sponsor of the reciprocity bill, our colleague Richard Hudson's bill. But I also support fixing the NICS and enhancing the NICS system. And I was one of many members of Congress also who signed the letter to the ATF to revisit the bump stock after the bump stock regulations after Las Vegas.
So why don't those things pass? I mean, if you're as conservative as they get in the House, then why isn't Kevin McCarthy and Paul Ryan pulling up those bills? Because we could pass both of those, even 3 bills, independently. Why isn't that happening?
Well, as you know, Jason, and I'm not sure if you were still in the Congress at the time, but we did pass the Fix NICS with the reciprocity bill. I'm in favor of separating and passing them again. I think the Senate needs to take action. You know, there's a narrative out there that Congress doesn't care or hasn't taken action on these mass murders. That's not true. We passed the Helping Families in Mental Health Crisis Act as part of the 21st Century Cures Act, which helps reform HIPAA with respect to helping family members intervene with loved ones who are suffering from mental illness. We've also taken action on the bump stocks. We've passed the Fix NICS program, and I would also be in favor of some federal authority to give local school districts the flexibility and the discretion to make our schools safer and to use resources to either pay for law enforcement officers in the schools, hardened schools, metal detectors, even more psychologists or counselors in the schools to monitor kids who have social alienation and warning signs. And, you know, this is personal to me and Jason because our good friend Steve Scalise was the victim last June of a gunman. Yeah. And, you know, the one lesson from that baseball field in Alexandria, when many of our colleagues were out there in harm's way, the lesson was that the best defense in a situation like that is a well-armed, well-trained security guard. Yep. And, you know, I think local school districts should be able to direct local decisions with parent-teachers associations on whether or not they want to use resources to have security officers in their schools.
Yeah, you would think so, Dagan.
Congressman, I want to ask you what you think about your Senator Rand Paul from your state of Kentucky about his pushback on this Fix NICS bill, because you are getting that from some conservatives with the suggestion of how can you appeal if you're flagged in this background check system. So are some of your colleagues, whether in the House, like Congressman Louis Gohmert, who we talked to yesterday, and then in the Senate, getting in the way of passing a clean bill to beef up a background check system that already exists and works in this country?
Well, in the case of Texas, where you saw the Air Force fail to provide the information to the NICS system, I think that's exactly what we're trying to fix. And I think we need to make sure that federal agencies are actually providing the information to make the NICS system work. We can have all the checks in the world, but if you don't have the information in the background check system, it doesn't work. And I would add that that the Fix NICS bill that we passed out of the House already, that bill actually enhanced some of the due process. So I agree with Senator Paul. We need procedural due process if the government is, taking away a constitutional right without due process. We need that due process, but we also need to make sure that the NICS system is working, and clearly it's not.